The Massachusetts Medical Society's Lifetime Achievement Award is a fitting finale to tonight's award presentations. The Lifetime Achievement Award honors a physician for outstanding career-long contributions to the practice of medicine and to the goals of the Medical Society. The recipient of our 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award is Dr. Frank Carboni. Dr. Carboni was chosen this year because of his dedication to the Medical Society and his commitment to mentoring his fellow physicians at all levels of organized medicine. In nominating him, his colleagues noted his many years of leadership in many, many capacities. As his fellow physicians put it, Dr. Carboni played key roles in mentoring and developing leaders both here at the Massachusetts Medical Society as well as at the AMA. He encouraged physicians, both young and old, to participate and get involved. And I can personally vouch for the value of his mentoring, as Frank has really helped me out a lot as I've risen up through the ranks of leadership here at the Medical Society. His devotion to the Medical Society spans more than 45 years, and the scope of his contributions is vast. In addition to serving on our Board of Trustees since 1965, Dr. Carboni served for 16 years as chair of the Committee on Nominations and has chaired the Organized Medical Staff Section since 1998. In 2005, he started the Society's Ambassador Program for Leadership Development. More than a decade later, he continues to participate in that program as a mentor. He is also past president of the Essex South Medical Society, which honored him with its Lifetime Achievement Award in 2013. On a national level, Dr. Carboni has been chairman of the New England Caucus of the AMA's Organized Medical Staff Section since 1996 and served for 7 years on the Physicians Advisory Committee of the Joint Commission. For his distinguished service to patients, students, fellow physicians, and his community, I am pleased to present to Dr. Frank Carboni the Medical Society's 2016 Lifetime Achievement Award.
Well, I thank you all. I'm very touched. Many of you have said I'm touched. And I'm also humbled. And my brother for years has said, you've got a lot to be humbled about. I'm indebted to the nominators, Alice and Ron and Mario and Alan. I'm a fortunate person, which I will get into later, but I do want to make some commentaries. The Essex South, my district, really hasn't been quite as supportive to me as I would have expected. I'm not going to give last names because that would identify the errant person who calls me the old senile one. But I'll get even with Mario later. I want you to look at the term lifetime achievement. First of all, lifetime. I think this is a warning that I ought to get my burial insurance up to date. You know, obviously I look peaked perhaps, and I might go off the deep end any time. So if I do, catch me, please. Achievement, I mean, it says in effect that this is it. You've had it, you'll never do anything else, you might as well leave. I do want to spend some serious time, and I'm not going to get maudlin, I hope. I've been blessed by the Mass Medical. I just, you know, Lou Gehrig, when he had to resign because of ALS, said, "I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth." Well, believe me, I'm number 2. Every place I turn, Mass Medical has supported me in my endeavors, and I hope we've all benefited from it. First of all, started with the OMSS, and it was well before 19 whatever was said. And I'm allowed to have my executive committee go, and when I had free chits, Massachusetts gave me 10 a year or something, I would ask one of you to come, and then I would say the next time, I say, "That's all. The funds have driven up. You've got to get your hospital to support you now, or someone else. Massachusetts isn't going to keep doing it." And so, as a result, the Massachusetts OMSS delegation is the largest in the country. We're well over, I think, 20%, Steve Phelan. Anyway, we're 20 of the whole delegation that goes to Chicago, et cetera. And then and of course I would try to help the new members. I enjoy teaching them or supporting them. And then I was elected as chair of nominations, which had as a reason that you have to go to you should go to every meeting of the AMA, which was a godsend to me. I learned a lot. I loved it. I got to know our delegates, appreciated them, gave them the needle. I'm not a nice person. I'm just sincere. And I was happy for a couple years of that. But then I said, geez, I'm bored. There's only so much I was able to do, other than shake hands and have bourbon. So I came up with this ambassador program thing, and you guys supported me. We had, at one time, eight, too many. We had 8 ambassadors, and I would try to mentor all of them. And now we're down to 5, and I tell you, it's the greatest thing that that's very, sorry, I'm going to step on toes, but that's the greatest outreach for our membership that the Mass Medical does. It is positively thrilling for me to have worked with people who are nominated to learn more about either Mass Medical, as that matter, or the AMA. And to see their enthusiasm and quizzicality and their determination and questioning, all in the body of a IQ 140, is a stimulating thing. And when I was able to help them, able to they say mentor, but able to be with them and get to know them closely and advise them where their puddle should be that they want to swim, and then push them 5 years later when they haven't begun swimming. It's a wonderful thing that I felt for 25, 30 years. And we're so lucky that Mass Medical has the wherewithal and the interest and frankly, the forward thinking. And I thank my wonderful officership who have been here forever. All of you here and here. I thank you very much. I'm humbled, and I appreciate the honor.
Take this with you. So once again, congratulations to all the awardees. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium back over to our Executive Vice President, Corinne Broderick.
Thank you, and I'd like to extend my personal congratulations to Dr. Salento and Dr. Carboni. I have been at the Medical Society for 32 years, and I've known them since my very first day, and it's just wonderful to see them honored this way. And now it's time for us to honor you, Dr. Dimitri. So I have a few words that I'd like to say about this incredible year that we've had together, all of us working together, an amazing partnership between the leadership and the staff. Dennis came into his role as president with great passion and enthusiasm, and he was very well prepared for the job, having served in leadership positions through the years, and he brought with him all the skills he had learned as he began his presidency. He soon found out that he needed every single one of those skills and more as he undertook one of the most important roles in his career. No sooner had he started than the opioid and addiction crisis hit front and center for the Medical Society. And Dennis showed us that he is fearless. He's willing to jump into that quagmire that is the legislative process and come out alive and well, and all the better for it. He is about as authentic a person as you could ever meet. When you talk with him, you trust what he's saying. He's a very accomplished communicator, able to express himself convincingly, yet he makes himself approachable at the same time. He's smart, agile, and can make changes in strategy when challenges arrive. So this year was a journey for Dennis that didn't let up. He traveled the Commonwealth speaking at meetings. He spent time with the governor, elected officials, administrative leaders, legislators, and found time to be in Washington to meet with congressional leaders as well. And of course, he became a radio star with Devin McCourty of the New England Patriots, and he enjoyed every minute of it. Dennis has energy and passion for everything that he does. He led the Medical Society with care and compassion, skills that make him a great physician, too. Last year at this time, Dennis shared with us a side of him that was inspiring and touching at the same time. And his speech moved all of us, and we won't forget it for a very long time. And Dennis, we won't forget you either. So everyone, please help me in thanking Dennis Dimitri, our 133rd president, for his intelligence, his authenticity, his agility, his courage, and his passion. Congratulations, Dennis, on a remarkable year.
Thank you all, and particularly Corinne. I really can't thank you enough for those kind words, but even more so for the consideration and the support that you've shown me personally over these last few years. Your guidance, your wise counsel, your gentle style, all of those things have made every success that I might have had as a president possible, and not only the success that I might have had, but really all of my predecessors. All of them would say exactly the same thing. Thank you so much. You know, I just have to go on to say you really fulfilled any expectations I might have had about what it would be like to work with you as the executive vice president. And those expectations were based on an admonition that I had received at the beginning of my president from one of our former presidents, Jack Evgey, who many of you know very well. And Jack said to me, "Dennis, I have one piece of advice. Listen to Corinne." And you know what? No better advice could have been had. So also on a personal note, as you alluded to, this was really a time of some great loss and sadness in my own life. And you've been there to listen to me when it's been hard, and I really thank you for that. As I mentioned last night at the reception honoring you, your work on behalf of the members of the Society will long be remembered and appreciated by all of us. I wish you and Dick all the best in your next phase, and thank you just for being you. So there are, of course, many others at the Medical Society to thank: Linda, Peggy and Sandra, Charlie, Elaine, Frank and Rick, Susan, Alex, Brendan, Bill and Rana, and lots of others. All of you and many others at the Society formed a team that made sure that we officers sounded and looked like we really knew what the heck was going on. And speaking of the officers, this last year with Jim and Hank has gone by really like a whirlwind, and they've been great partners every step of the way. So where do I begin? You know, it can be difficult to write a speech like this without kind of falling into the traps of cliches and bromides. So I'll beg your indulgence should that happen. But I may also point out that sometimes a cliche exists because there's some kernel of truth that it may contain. And as for the bromides, well, I hope you feel like I have come up with at least a couple of original views on things over this last year. So with that in mind, my desire is to leave you tonight with some food for thought as this terrific medical society continues to thrive and provide proof of its relevance. It seems that every year, for quite some time now, we talk about a sense that we are in the midst of a time of unprecedented change. Now, sometimes that's been true, but sometimes it's been hyperbole. Let me suggest to you that once again this year, we can point to occurrences that would seem to confirm a sense of enormous change. I'll leave it up to you to decide this time if that change is truly unprecedented or is it more hyperbole. But one change that for our patients has been seen is recent data showing that since the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, the national uninsured rate has fallen to an 8-year low. For physician, payment change from SGR to MACRA has begun, and frankly, we can't be exactly sure where that change will end up looking like in a couple of years. Here in Massachusetts, the governor has initiated an extraordinary discourse about the epidemic of opioid overdose deaths, and the Medical Society has done its part to contribute to the solution of this public health crisis. And of course, right here at the Medical Society, change is being marked by the retirement at the end of this month of Corrine and the arrival of a new executive vice president, Lois Cornell. And as many of you heard today, if you were able to attend our annual education program, all this change has been taking place in an environment of increasing reports of physician burnout and professional dissatisfaction. And it's not just the dissatisfaction created by the usual suspects of administrative burden and squeezed payments, but rather the burnout also created by the difficulty of caring for a complex population increasingly affected by chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, hepatitis C, and substance use disorders. These and others often are impacted more by social determinants of health rather than the care that we might be able to deliver. But that doesn't mean we should give up or stop paying attention to some of these issues. In fact, to borrow a line used by the American Public Health Association Director Georges Benjamin when he spoke here a few weeks ago at our public health forum on gun violence, quote, "If it hurts people, if it kills people, physicians should care." Now, I think this admonition applies not just to guns, but to food insecurity, safe housing, the environment, and many more public health issues that extend beyond what many of us think of as the traditional healthcare issues. Now, that's not to say that every physician will be personally involved in all of these broad issues, or even some of them, or that we should not be working to improve the care that we do deliver. But whatever our specialty or area of expertise may be, I say that we should be open to considering all of these factors, just as we have to be open to novel explanations of disease as those explanations move from conjecture to theory to proven fact. And if you're wondering if considering these factors really lies within the mission of the Medical Society, let me argue to you that it does. From its foundation in 1781, the Society has been focused not just on itself, but on the health and welfare of the community at large. The modern expression of that purpose is carved in stone at the entrance of our headquarters in Waltham. The purposes of the Massachusetts Medical Society shall be to do all things as may be necessary and appropriate to advance medical knowledge, to develop and maintain the highest professional and ethical standards of medical practice and healthcare, and to promote medical institutions formed on liberal principles for the health, benefit, and welfare of the citizens of the Commonwealth. Now, many of you have heard me quote those words as an indicator of the fact that the Medical Society is really a public health organization. It is not, as some others have inelegantly referred to it, a physician guild. It's not just a lobby for physician interests. We recognize our responsibility to provide for the greater good. Certainly, the Medical Society has always tried to improve the lot of the physician community, and it must continue to do so for as long as it exists. Because by caring for physicians, we provide our colleagues with the opportunity to do what it is that brought all of us to this calling, and what creates for all of us the most professional satisfaction, and that is the ability to care for and improve the health and well-being of our patients. Our charter is now well over 200 years old, but that does not mean that it has lost its relevance. Not any more so than the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident," or "We, the people of the United States," have lost their relevance. Those are words that date from the same historical era as our original Articles of Incorporation. And though amendments have since taken place, those original words form a framework that still endures. It's not dissimilar from something else that some of you know is very dear to my heart: baseball. Now, legend has it that the rules of baseball were created by Abner Doubleday in Cooperstown, New York in the early 1800s. Turns out, as we all know now, that's really a myth. But whatever the origin of those rules may have been, they formed a basic framework for the game that is still played today. But it's not exactly the same game. Yes, there are still 3 outs per inning and 9 innings per game, unless, as George Carlin once said, we're lucky enough to get extra innings. But now players use gloves, not bare hands, to field balls. And we have designated hitters and relief pitching specialists that are all part of the evolution of the game to fit our current times. It's not necessarily better or worse, it's just evolved. And by the way, more people watch it today on television than ever could have possibly seen it in person in the past. It's hard to argue that that increased access to the games has been anything other than good for all involved. And here, too, at the Medical Society, things have evolved. We have increasingly engaged in debates about state and local legislation and policy that impact upon our patients. We have changed the way we relate to our membership as medical practice has evolved from a cottage industry of solo practitioners to physicians practicing in groups and increasingly practicing as leaders of a team of various types of clinicians. We have tried hard to increase the diversity of our organization, not only with respect to issues like gender, ethnicity, and race, but also with respect to practice styles and points of view. And just as with baseball doing via television, we continue to try and reach a broader audience of physicians, be it with technology or by having this more inclusive view of the world. It's hard to argue that this version of increased access is anything other than good for all involved. Much of this evolutionary change is often sparked by our youngest members, the students and residents, who push us quite regularly to consider how the world is changing and who want to make sure that this medical society is a positive influence on that change. Those of us who've been around for a while have to work hard sometimes to suppress the urge to always think we know better, and to instead use the wisdom of our experience to help those newer voices in their efforts to positively impact the society's progress. If I could leave you with one admonition tonight, it would be to nurture those new young voices, especially since they belong to those who are going to be taking care of many of us in the future. It's in our own self-interest to make sure that they thrive. So aside from that single admonition, how do I close my remarks? Well, I'm compelled to tell you about the many outside voices who approached me this year and congratulated me on behalf of the medical society for a tone of engagement with the non-medical community on issues ranging from the opioid epidemic to more creative approaches to scope of practice issues, to working with others on the rapid rise in the cost of pharmaceuticals, to our recent public health efforts to address gun violence in our society. Now, have we agreed on all the details regarding approaches to these issues with these other constituencies? No, not always. But we have agreed to be engaged partners on the big pictures these and other issues present to us. I guess that leads me to the final thoughts I have for all of you and for the society. Try to avoid the sin of hubris. Be humble in your approach to others, be they our patients, our fellow physicians, even those in specialties other than your own, or those individuals or institutions which we might perceive as our antagonists. You know, most of them are really interested, just like you are, in improving the lot for all of us. Once we can all agree on that, we can always find a way to work out the details. And as I mentioned in my inaugural remarks last year, please be sure to have some fun along the way. I know that I certainly did this year, and I thank all of you for the opportunity to have done so. You know, they say sometimes that when you're doing something that's fun, it doesn't feel like work. And I've said this to a few people tonight already. That was certainly the case for me this year. It didn't feel like work. It felt like a lot of fun and a lot of important things that got accomplished because all of us were working together. My best wishes go out to all of you, medical society staff and members, colleagues and co-workers, family and friends, and to Jim and Hank and Hélène in the years to come. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you. Thanks. Jim, please come join me here at the lectern. So now let me introduce you to someone who's become a collaborator, a colleague, advisor, and friend as we have worked together over these last few years. Many of you know him because he has served in many membership and leadership roles here at the Medical Society. I've come to recognize his dedication to the Medical Society and his determination to be sure that it continues to thrive by taking on challenges fearlessly and searching for improvement. These are precisely the qualities we all seek in leaders, and for these reasons and more, I know that he will be a great president. Ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the Massachusetts Medical Society, Dr. James Gessner.